the place text tool. You can get to that in your main toolbar right here, which is the first one, or you can go to your construction toolbar and grab it right here, which is the first one also. Whenever you do that, you're going to get two different dialog boxes. One to place your text in, and also some of the attributes behind the text before you place it. You have some different methods to place that text. You have by origin, fitted, view independent, fitted, view independent, above and below, on, along, and word wrap. And we'll go over each one of those. Let's do the one by origin first. We'll click on it. We're not going to worry about text styles. We don't utilize that here at MoDOT right now. You have the active angle if you want to put an angle in there. Your height and width. Apply changes to all text. Normally you leave that checked on. Then also down below here you have some options depending on what font that you want. Normally you want the MoDOT E and G font. That way you can utilize special characters that are out there like the centerline symbol, baseline symbol, property line. Your justification depending on how you want your text justified. And we'll just demonstrate this as center for right now. Your line spacing, depending on what you want your line spacing to be. And that is a percentage. This number right here is a percentage of what your height and width are. So if I set this right now to 1, tab to lock it in, if I have multiple lines of text, that space in between there is going to be 0.12, just the same as my height and my width. Or if I come in here and I make this 0.5, it's going to make this right here, it's going to make my spacing 0.06. So it's driven off what your height and your width dimensions are. So if I come in here and I change this to something else, this right here, this 0.5 is going to be 0.5 of whatever this number is right here. Inner character spacing, if you need that, you can put that in there. I'm not going to worry about that. Text node lock, we don't utilize that here at MoDOT, so we'll leave it unchecked. If you do have that checked on and you try to place text, you won't be able to place text. So just leave it unchecked. So now if I have my settings in my place text dialog box here set up the way I want it and I'm ready to place text, all I would need to do is go into my text editor, type in the text that I want to place, type that in, and now if I use my mouse and I scroll out to my screen here, you'll notice that I can place it wherever I need to place it at. If I need to snap to a certain point, I can snap to an endpoint, or if I'm just going to place it out there in the screen, you can do that. And you'll notice that that X is in the center of that particular text that I'm placing. That is the justification of it. So if I come in here later on and edit this text, basically it's going to pin it at that X right there and edit the text outward to the left and the right side. If I want to justify everything to the left side, and if I come back later on, everything will stay to the left and move to the right, so to speak, you could change that also to your justification as left center justified, or left top, or right, or however you want to justify your text. So just kind of keep that in mind whenever you're placing your text out there. So if we're ready to place it, just simply left click to drop it off, and you're finished. If we want to come back in here and place it again, we can. So I come in here and I say place text. One of the can I show you one of the special characters that you can utilize? Let's say /203 of Route 54. Put in the wrong slash there, and you'll see that centerline symbol. And also, since it's set to center justified right now, you'll notice that my text is going to be center justified. If I want them all to the left side, I would do left, and everything would be justified to the left side. So if I'm ready to place it, and you'll also notice that once I place it, right click to reset it, this space in between here is 0.06 because my height of my text is 0.12. So if I want to change that to something else, maybe 1, place my text out there. You notice that the spacing in between there is the same as what my height is. So that's using the place text tool. To show you where some of those special characters are located at, if you don't know where they're at, if you go to your Internet Explorer, and we'll go to the CAD Wiki site, CADDNET, go to the Microstation page, go to the Microstation support material. I'll hide my contents, and if you scroll down through here where it says text and notes, you'll see this link that says special text characters. And if you click on it, it'll basically show you what special characters that you can utilize as long as you're using the MoDOT 3 font, just like what we have here whenever we're placing the text. If we have it set to some other font, it won't allow us to utilize those special characters. So you can go through here and utilize whatever special character that you need to place text out there. I'll go ahead and close down my Internet Explorer. Showed you that. Let's pan over to the next one where it says above and below element. And if I come in here and I change my method from by origin to above element, and I come in here and place text now, I'll do above, you'll notice as you move your mouse out onto your screen, you won't see the text, because you have to identify the element that you want to place that text above. So all we need to do is left click on that particular line, left click again to accept it, and it places it out there. Simple as that. Left click once, left click to accept it, places it above that particular element. And you'll notice also here is my width in between here. That is driven off that line spacing. So like right now I got a pretty good gap in here. If I don't want that big of a gap, I would probably want to change my line spacing to something different. Maybe half of that, 0.5. That way my gap in between here is half of my height here, which would be 0.06. So if I come in here and do this again, left click on the line, left click to accept it, you notice that gap in between here is smaller now. So that's what the above element allows you to do. It's the same way for your justification and so forth. If you change your method to below element, basically it's going to do the same thing, but it's going to put it below the element wherever you select it at. Left click once, left click to accept it, and you're finished. Left click once, left click again to accept it, and you're done. The next option that you have in your methods here is on element. So you can actually place it on that element and it will break it out wherever you select it at on that particular element. So if I click on element, and I'll just put in some numbers here, let's say 800, and if I left click on that particular item here, left click once, left click again to accept it, you'll notice that it places it on that element basically at the same angle wherever you select it at, and also it breaks it out. So that's what the on element allows you to do. Left click once, left click again to accept it, and you're finished. Now if I come in here and I change that to along element, that will allow it to go along an element. Let's say I put in Missouri. Once you left click to identify it, the next thing it's going to say is accept or reject. Here's where you have to identify what side that you want to put it on, whether it's the bottom side of it or the top side. So wherever I select it at, I left click and drop it off is where it's going to get placed at. So if I want it above it, I just drag my mouse a little bit above it, left click to accept it, and we're finished. Like I said, let's left click on the item that you want to place it along, identify what side that you want to place it on, left click to accept it, and you're finished. So that's what the along element allows you to do. The last one that we're going to talk about in this particular tool is the word wrap. The word wrap allows you to place maybe a paragraph confined in a certain area. Let's say you got a large drawing and you have just a certain area to place text at, here's where you can identify a box before you place the text. And whenever you identify that box, just like what I'll do here, I'll left click once, and it'll even say down in your status bar, it's going to say place first corner point. Left click once, left click again, and then now whenever I come in here, and I'm going to change my justification for this one, I'm going to change it to left, maybe left top. If I come in here and place text, you'll notice that whenever I place it inside here, you'll see that it's going to break out your sentences just like what I have right here. So instead of just keep going out to the right side, it identifies that box, and then once it sees that it can't place this place to live on this side, it breaks it down to the next line. So that's what the word wrap allows you to do. It allows you to identify a box out there to place that particular paragraph of text that you want in place. Now if you ever need to, just for informational purposes, if you ever need to edit that, not really edit the text, but maybe shrink it out, or shrink it, or maybe make that box a little bit bigger to maybe fit it more confined, you can do that. And the way you would do that is go back to your element selection tool, select that text, make sure your handles are enabled. They were disabled, but if I enable them, you'll notice that you'll have those grips or handles that you can grab. And if you grab it by one of the corners here, you can actually make that box bigger or smaller to confine that area a little bit more if you need to do that. Just like what I'm doing here, I'm just grabbing it by one of the corners, and you'll notice that I can kind of manipulate that box a little bit to define it a little bit differently. So that's another option that you can utilize whenever you're using the word wrap option. Don't grab it by these blue handles here, because that will actually edit the height and the width of the spacing of the text also, just like what it's doing right now. If you grab it by the corner, you can change that box, but your height and your width of your text will still be correct. So those are the options underneath the Place Text tool that you can utilize.